problems in the OPs. Okay. So in the examination also, in the university examination also, at least one question will be there regarding behavior problem. Short question. Right? So what is behavior? What is behavior? Behavior is the way in which a person acts, especially towards others, in response to a particular situation. Okay? The way in which a person acts, especially towards others, in response to a particular situation, that is behavior. Okay. So these problems are seen even in kids also. Not only in adults, even kids also, these problems are there. So we are concerned with the kid problems in this class. Okay. So what are the causes of behavioral problems in the children? They are classified as biological and psychosocial. Biological, genetic predisposition, Fragile X syndrome, Down syndrome, okay, HIE, hypoxic ischemic encephalopathy. Baby has not cried immediately after birth for more than 5 minutes. Okay, then child may have severe mental retardation. That is one of the causes of behavior problems. And physically handicapped. Child is physically handicapped. Other children are playing well, and this is not playing well. They're not caring him. So this child may develop behavioral problems and fatigue. These are the biological problems. And psychosocial problems are again divided into family, maybe because of the school problems, maybe cultural problems. So what are the family problems which cause behavior changes in a child? Okay, the family attitude of the parents. If the parents' attitude is not proper toward the child, okay, then the child may have developed these problems. Overprotection. Sometimes some parents they overprotect the child. That is also not good. Then rejection. Some parents they're not bothered about the child at all. That also causes. Then child abuse. Always scolding the child and beating the child and nothing. Okay. Then over discipline. Right? Anxiety. And they expect more from the child. Parents they expect more marks for the child. Child may not be getting so many marks. So they scold him, they beat him, they abuse him. Okay. So that causes behavioral problems. Then role model. Who is the role model for a child? Parents are the role models for the child. If parents are not proper, okay, behaving properly with each one, then the child learns the same thing from the parents. Okay. Time spent with the child. So at least mother has to spend a lot of time with the child because fathers will be working. In the olden days, only father used to work. Now even mother is also going for work. So at least at the home, they have to spend time with the child, not with the cell phone. Okay? Conflict of the parents. The parents are fighting always at home. The child is not happy. So he develops these psychological problems or behavior problems. Okay? Then at the school, problems at the school which cause psychological problems are stress. Okay? The child is getting less marks and teacher is always asking him to get good marks and beats the child. Okay? And self-esteem, achievement. Okay? Peer group pressures. Again, that causes psychological problems in a child. Over discipline at the school. Okay? Then antisocial problems. Cultural problems like media. In cell phones, in TVs, they see all these things. Okay? Terrorism, violence. Okay? They learn these things from the neighborhood also. If the neighborhood, same psychological problems are there in the child, this I will have behavior problems. Then ethnicity. So these are the causes of behavior problems. Biological, psychosocial. Okay. Common behavior problems are these things. 8. One is pica. The other one is bedwetting or enuresis. And thumb sucking. Fourth one is breath holding spells, the temper tantrums, tics, bruxism, and encopresis. Okay. Most of the times, the child is brought to the pediatric OPD for pica and enuresis. Okay, because parents are not aware of all this problem. So for pica and enuresis only they bring. Others are not bothered, but in the examination they may ask. Okay. So you should know about all these conditions. So what is pica? It is repeated or chronic ingestion of non-nutritive substances. It is not a nutrition substance. It is a non-nutritive substance. Child chronically ingests them. So what are those substances like mud, muddy, paint, clay, plaster, charcoal, okay, soil? These are the things the child must be continuously consuming, ingesting. Okay. And it is normal in infants and toddlers up to 2 years. Okay, because they don't know what to eat and what not to eat, what to keep in the mouth and what not to keep in the mouth. If they keep soil or mud in the mouth, it dissolves, they swallow it. Okay, after 2 years, they know it is not good. So after 2 years, okay. Okay, so and it is a passing phase. Pica after 2 years of life needs investigations. So after 2 years, yes, because child keeps everything up to 2 years, they keep everything in the mouth. Even blades they keep, scissors they keep, knife the child may keep. Okay, whatever is there they keep in the mouth. So after 2 years, the parents have to take care of the child properly. Okay, after 2 years, it continues. Yes, we have to investigate and we have to find out what is the cause of pica and we have to treat it. What are the predisposing factors for pica? Lack of parental nurturing. Okay, mentally retarded child because of HIE or some genetic problems. Then psychological neglect. Okay, parents are not left the child and the child is admitted in orphanage. There nobody is bothered about the child because so many children will be there, only 1 or 2 ayahs will be there. Okay, then family disorganization. Always parents are fighting with each other and they're not bothered about the child. Then low social class and autism. What is autism? It is inability to communicate and interact. Inability to communicate and interact is autism. So these are the predisposing factors for pica. So once you know that it is pica, then we have to investigate because they swallow soil, mud, and other things. So the child may have worms in the stomach, in the abdomen. Okay, so worms continuously ingest the blood from the intestines. Okay, child may go into anemia. So we have to screen to know what is it. Okay, what is the cause? Screen indicated for iron deficiency anemia. The child is anemic and there is history of pica, then we have to screen. Like CVP investigations we have to do, like complete blood picture. Okay, MCV, MCHC, then stool examination for ova and cysts. Then to rule out lead poisoning. Okay, we have to do CVP. Okay, then X-ray abdomen, radio plates, and X-ray long bones, leg lines at metaphyseal ends. Okay, then we have to inquire about any family dysfunction. Okay, then once we come to know what is the problem and what is the cause, okay, then we have to treat it accordingly. This usually remains in child but can continue into adolescence also. Usually, okay, by 2 years, after 2 years, it remits, but sometimes it may continue. Okay, in children even up to 5-6 years also. So we have to be careful. Okay, that is about pica. Then bedwetting. Bedwetting is enuresis. The medical term is enuresis. What is enuresis? Repeated discharge. Repeated discharge. What do you mean by repeated? Twice a week for 3 consecutive months. Thrice a week for 3 consecutive months, if the child passes urine in the clothes, okay, or bed after a developmental age, and bladder control should be established. So when do they develop that control, bladder control? Daytime by 4 years, night time by 6 years. Even if the child crossed 4 years and passing urine in the clothes in daytime and crosses 6 years passing urine in the clothes in the night time, then it is enuresis. Okay. Repeated passage of urine, that is twice a week for 3 consecutive days after 4 years in daytime and after 6 years night time is enuresis. The prevalence less than 4 years old, it is 3 to 7%. 5 to 10 years old, it is 2 to 3%. What are the types of enuresis? It is primary, secondary, and diurnal. Okay, primary nocturnal enuresis. This is nocturnal. Primary means child has not been dry at night. Since birth, child is passing every day urine in clothes in the night. This is most commonest one. 90% of the nocturnal enuresis are primary nocturnal enuresis. Okay. Secondary nocturnal enuresis, child was normal. The child was not passing urine in the clothes and suddenly developed the problem, and he is passing urine regularly in the nights. Then it is called as secondary nocturnal enuresis. Child has been continent for 6 months, more than 6 months, and then began to wet bed during sleep. 6 months he has not passed urine, and after 6 months gap, started passing urine. That is secondary nocturnal enuresis. Okay. Diurnal enuresis, child passes urine even daytime also. Not only in the night, even daytime also. That is called as diurnal enuresis. So these are the types of enuresis. Causes of enuresis, primary nocturnal enuresis, primary. That means not dry on any given day. Every day child is passing urine in the clothes in the night or in the bed in the night. Okay, what are the causes? Marked familial pattern. It is running in the family. 68% concordance rate in monozygotic twins. Okay, monozygotic twins means one egg. Okay, giving rise to 2 embryos. That is commonly seen in monozygotic twins. After analysis, dizygotic twins, they may develop this problem in 38%. Then genes of chromosome 22 are also implicated in primary nocturnal enuresis. Okay, exact pattern of transmission is not clear, but there may be abnormal bladder dysfunction in them and hyposecretion of arginine vasopressin hormone. Arginine vasopressin hormone, what is the function of it? It reabsorbs the water from the tubular fluid and collecting that. So if hyposecretion of this hormone is there, what happens? There won't be any reabsorption. So water, urine in ureters and will be more collected more. That goes to the bladder, and quantity of urine is increased because of decreased vasopressin. Okay, so that may be the problem. Then diminished capacity to be aroused from the sleep. Okay. Then secondary nocturnal enuresis causes a psychosocial stress. That means secondary means child was normal for more than 6 months, started passing to urine again. The night is secondary, is it not? The psychosocial stress. Child is insecure after birth of younger sibling. Child was normal. Okay. Then child younger sibling is born. So parents are showing interest in that child. Okay. Then this child may develop this problem. Or family quarrels. Then academic stress, school failure. Okay. Teacher doesn't like him. Okay. Then that may cause nocturnal enuresis. Secondary nocturnal enuresis. Urinary tract infection. Child was normal for, okay, child was 8 years old or 7 years old, normal. Then again started passing urine in the night in the bed, probably because of urinary tract infection, or developed juvenile diabetes mellitus. So these are the causes of secondary nocturnal enuresis. That means child who was normal for more than 6 months, not passing urine for more than 6 months in the night in the bed, has developed this problem. Then it is called as secondary nocturnal enuresis, and these are the common causes. Okay. Management of secondary nocturnal enuresis depends on the cause. So we have to find out what is the problem and we have to treat it. If it is urinary tract infection, we have to do urine examination and urine culture sensitivity, and we have to treat this infection according to the sensitivity report for 14 days. Okay. If it is diabetes mellitus, we have to treat it. Psychological stress, yes, we have to find out and we have to send them to the clinical psychologist. Mother, parents as well as child. Okay. Then diurnal enuresis, that is passing urine even daytime and night. Okay. It is because of micturition deferral. Child waits until last minute to void urine. He is busy playing. He doesn't want to go for toilet because others may neglect him. They may not allow him to again to play with them because he goes to toilet room. No? Then urinary tract infections, excessive constipation. So these are the causes of diurnal enuresis. Management of diurnal enuresis depends upon the cause. So we have to find out what is the cause and we have to treat it. Primary nocturnal enuresis management, detailed clinical and developmental history we have to take. Family history also we have to take, any problem in the family. Then rule out urinary tract infection by doing urine examination and urine culture sensitivity, and rule out occult spina bifida, that is defect in the spine. For that we have to do an X-ray of the lumbosacral spine. Okay. Then abnormalities of the urinary tract. For that we have to do ultrasonography of the abdomen, and we have to rule out diabetes. Okay. And we have to treat it. Okay. Behavior therapy for primary nocturnal enuresis. Parents counsel to encourage child to win cooperation. Here parents are counseled. We have to counsel the parents to encourage the child to win cooperation from the child. Okay. Never humiliate or punish the child. We have to tell the parents not to punish the child. Okay. If they praise the child, the problem goes down. Okay. Ensure child doesn't drink fluids after 7 p.m. So whatever they have to feed, they have to feed before 7 p.m. They have to give supper, dinner before 7 p.m. only. And after 7 p.m., no feeds at all. And when they go to the bed at 10 o'clock or 9 o'clock, again, you have to take the child to the toilet, let the child pass urine. Then once the child goes to the toilet, sleep, after 2 hours, they have to wake him up again and ask him to void the urine. Okay. Then they have to, parents should be counseled, and the child doesn't pass urine for 2 or 3 days, then the parents have to mark it on the calendar. Okay, every day when the child doesn't pass urine, they have to mark on the calendar, and by the weekend, we have to see how many days he has not passed urine, and they have to buy something and give to him as a gift, saying that because you have not passed urine for so many days, this is a gift for you. Okay, so enuresis subsides in few months if they follow these. Okay, then another is bedwetting alarms. It consists of small sponge pad that is worn inside night clothes. Okay, in the clothes, they put the small sponge pad into which an electronic sensor is clipped. Okay, once the child passes urine, what happens? Leakage completes, an electric circuit and sounds an alarm. Okay, the sponge becomes wet, electric circuit is completed, and alarm sounds. Okay, it requires minimum 6 to 8 weeks of continuous use before its effects will appear. Okay, as soon as the alarm sounds, the child gets up and parents also get up and they take him to a toilet. Okay, at least 6 to 8 weeks they have to use it. Efficacy increases with duration of therapy, and it is the best long-term outcome. Okay, then medicines, pharmacotherapy for primary nocturnal enuresis. if behavior therapy fails, previously we were talking about behavior therapy. If that fails, then parents have to use medicines. Okay. One is imipramine. Imipramine 2.5 mg per kg once a day at bedtime for few weeks. And then slowly they can taper it. So what is the mechanism of action of imipramine? It reduces detrusor activity and increase bladder capacity. So urinary bladder contraction capacity is decreased, so it expands. Okay, 50% of successful rate. Then in developed countries, they use desmopressin acetate. Okay, 10 micrograms orally or intranasally at bedtime, at least for 3 months. So what happens if desmopressin is given? Water absorption from the distal tubules is increased. So less urine is produced and less urine enters into the bladder. Okay. 1 week interruption in the treatment every 3 months is recommended to see if the enuresis has resolved or not. If it resolved, okay. If it doesn't resolve, then they have to continue another 3 months. Okay. It is well tolerated for long-term treatment and low incidence of adverse effects. So desmopressin acetate. The other one is oxybutynin. It has anticholinergic and smooth muscle relaxant properties. Okay, the smooth muscle in the bladder is relaxed because with the oxybutynin. So detrusor useful in patients with detrusor overactivity at night. Okay, so detrusor muscle in the urinary bladder is relaxed, so it is tense. Child doesn't pass urine in the bed. These patients usually present with daytime frequency, urgency, or incontinence. The side effect of oxybutynin is constipation. Okay, that is about enuresis. Now, thumb sucking. Always keep, the child keeps his thumb in the mouth and sucks. Okay, it is a habit disorder and it gives sensory solace to the child. Okay, he always keeps the thumb in the mouth and sucks, no? So that gives a sensory solace to the child. Normal infants and toddlers, up to 2 years, it is okay because they keep everything in the mouth. If nothing is available, they keep the thumb or fingers. Okay, then predisposing factors for it is developmental delay and neglect. If it persists beyond 2 years, it is developmental delay or neglect by the parents. Okay, management of thumb sucking, reassure the parents that it is transient. We have to tell the parents, we bring the child to the hospital OPD for thumb sucking, that it will be transient. After 2 years of age, usually it subsides. Then improve parental attention and nurturing. We have to tell the parents that they should show attention to the child. The child should know that parents are more interested in him. Okay. Teach a parent to ignore and give more attention to positive aspects of the child behavior. They should not punish the child, and they should not scold the child why he is keeping the mouth, thumb in the mouth. Okay. They have to ignore that and they have to give positive aspect. They have to show importance to positive aspects of the child's behavior and provide child praise for such behaviors. Okay, then they can put some bitter substances, bitter solutions to the thumb. Okay, bitter substances to the thumb. The child puts the thumb in the mouth, so bitter, so he reduces putting the thumb in the mouth. Okay, it reduces. Chronic thumb sucking in older children may affect alignment of the teeth, protruding teeth, especially central incisors upper. Okay. The other problem is breath holding spell. Breath holding spells are behavior problems in infants and toddlers again. Child cries and then holds the breath until limp. Okay. Then once child becomes limp and child falls down, the parents get tense. Once the child knows that this is how he is controlling the parents, then it continues it. Okay. Then what happens when he holds the breath? Cyanosis may occur, sometimes loss of consciousness or even seizures can occur. Okay, it is child's attempt to control the environment, that is parents or caregivers. When the child becomes unconscious, and the child becomes cyanose, and the child is throwing a seizure, the parents become tense. Okay, so now child knows that, oh, this is how I can control them. Okay, then it is a benign condition, no risk of epilepsy developing in later life. Okay, so breath holding spells, child may throw a fit, they don't go into epilepsy in later life. How it is managed? Elicit clinical sequence of events from the parents. Parents are reassured and told to ignore the behavior. If they show interest, then child knows this is how I can attack them. This is how I can control them. And he throws it every day. He throws that spell, breath holding spell. So parents should ignore it. At the onset of breath holding spell, parents are requested to place the child on the floor so that he will not fall and he will not sustain the injuries. No, so that no harm can occur to the child, and leave the room. Parents should leave the room. Then the child knows that parents are not at all interested. So this is of no use. So he stopped that behavior. So blood holding spell not discussed in child's presence without sufficient reinforcement. Breath holding spells often disappear. So breath holding spell is one way of controlling the parents. So parents should ignore it, and they should make him lie down on the floor, and they have to leave the room. Then child knows that, oh, this way of controlling the parents is of no use. So it becomes normal. Okay. Management of breath holding spell, referral to child guidance clinic. Okay. You have to send them to the clinical psychologist in the institute or sector. Okay. Child history of family behavior and dynamics, and parental coaching to ameliorate holding spells. If breath holding spell accompanied with head banging or highly aggressive behavior, okay, then again psychologist is going to help them. Child psychologist in child guidance clinic helps to ameliorate breath holding spell over a few weeks. Okay. Then temper tantrum. Another behavioral problem is temper tantrum. It's common in 18 months to 3 years old. All these problems are common in this age group only. Okay. This is because of due to development of sense of autonomy. Child wants to control everybody in the house. Okay. Child displays defiance, oppositionism by having temper tantrums. So how? Crying, screaming, yelling, kicking or hitting, pinching, biting, head banging. This is how he wants to control the child, parents at home. Okay. Normal part of child's development gets reinforced when parents respond to it by punitive anger. Child wrongly learns that temper tantrums are a reasonable response to frustration. Precipitating factors for temper tantrums: hunger, fatigue, lack of sleep, innate personality of the child, ineffective parental skills, over pampering, dysfunctional family and family violence, and school aversion. So these are the precipitating factors for temper tantrum. So when the child is brought to the hospital, OPD, if it is temper tantrum, then we have to inquire about these things. Okay. Then we have to send them to the clinical psychologist, to the psychiatric department. Okay. Management of temper tantrum. In general, parents are advised to set a good example to the child, because child learns from the parents. Okay. And they have to pay attention to the child. Spend quality time with the child. Then the child knows that, oh, my parents are very much interested in me, so will not do all these things. Okay. Have open communication with the child and have consistency in behavior. So here parents are important, because we have to tell the parents to behave properly with the child. And during the temper tantrum, we have to tell the parents what to do. During the temper tantrum, parents to ignore the child, leave the child alone. Okay. Then the child knows that this way is not of use. If they are not showing any interest in me, then why should I behave like this? Okay. So parents to ignore the child and leave the child alone. When the child is calm, tell the child, okay, calmly, that such behavior is not acceptable. And verbal reprimand should not be abused. And never beat or threaten the child. Okay. Then praise and reward the child for good behavior. Then impose timeout as disciplinary method if temper tantrum is disruptive. What do you mean by timeout? Timeout means removal of privileges because of unacceptable behavior. You have to ask the child to stand at the corner of the room facing the wall for few minutes. That is the punishment for it. How many minutes? That depends upon the age of the child. Okay. Then child knows that, oh, this is they are not accepting me, all these things. Then slowly it becomes normal. And refer the child to child guidance clinic if temper tantrums persist. These things fail at home, then they have to take them to the clinical psychologist or child psychologist at the institute. Then tics. Tics is another problem. Its definition is repetitive movements of muscle groups of face, neck, hands, shoulders, and trunk. Repetitive movements of muscle groups of face, neck, hands, shoulders, and trunk. Example, lip smacking, grimacing, tongue thrusting, eye blinking, throat clearing. Okay. This is tension relieving habit disorder. It is mostly transient for a few months, a few years. It will be there. Afterwards, it will become normal. Persistent tics needs psychotherapeutic intervention. Okay. So if persistent, we have to then send them to the psychologist again. Cause of persistent tics, academic underachievement, low self-esteem, neuropsychological dysfunction. So these are the cause of persistent tics. Persistent tics are there, then we have to send them to the clinical psychologist. Okay. Characteristics of tics. Tics can be suppressed by child for short period if made conscious or reprimanded. Tics never associated with transient inability to interact. Okay. Even if the child is having tics, you can interact with him. But if it is a case of seizures, you cannot interact with him. Okay. Tics disappear when child is asleep. Okay. Once the child is in the sleeping, tics don't. Okay. They disappear. But dystonia and dyskinetic movements, even in the sleep, they move. Okay. The tics will be there. Tics like problem will be there. Rarely tics precipitated in child on stimulant medication, methylphenidate or ADHD. Okay. Even drugs cause tics. So you have to find out what is the problem and you have to treat it. Okay. The other problem is teeth grinding, like this, bruxism. Again, it is a habit disorder. Begins in the first 5 years of life. Okay. Associated with daytime anxiety. Associated with daytime anxiety and may lead to problems with dental occlusion. Okay. In some cases, it may run in the families also. So, bruxism or teeth grinding is usually seen in children below 5 years of age, and it is habit disorder. Okay. Management of bruxism or teeth grinding is help child find ways to reduce anxiety. So for that, to reduce the anxiety, that parents have to do something. So what parents have to do? Parent reads relaxing stories at bedtime. Okay. Parent daily reviews fears and angers experienced during day. And parents have to praise the child. And they have to support him emotionally. So these things the parents can do. Okay. This is how they can reduce the anxiety in the child so that bruxism can be managed. Okay. Persistent bruxism leads to muscular or temporomandibular joint pain and dental problems are malalignment of teeth. For that, we have to refer them to the dentist. Okay. Then encopresis. Another condition is encopresis, that is passage of stools, passage of feces into inappropriate places after 4 years of age. Up to 4 years, okay, they don't know what they are doing. But after 4 years, okay. So passage of stools into inappropriate places after 4 years of age, okay, is called as encopresis. Usually associated with constipation and overflow. This is again the two types are there: primary, secondary. Primary is persisting from infancy onwards. Secondary appears after successful toilet training. Okay, primary and secondary encopresis. Primary is right from the birth, it is continuing. Even 4 years, 5 years, it is continuing. Secondary, child was normal for few months, again started passing stool wherever they lie, that is secondary. Predisposing factors for encopresis: primary subtypes, developmental delay. Okay, developmental delay. Even after 6 years or 7 years, they don't know what they are doing. They pass stool wherever they like. Secondary, child was normal for few days, few years, again started passing stool. That is usually seen psychosocial stress. Okay, conduct disorders. Child was normal few years or few months, again passing stool wherever they like, then it is second subtype and causes as psychosocial distress or conduct disorder. Clinical features of encopresis. Okay, encopresis, what happens when child passes stool in the classroom? He doesn't go to the toilet, he passes stool in the classroom, in his clothes itself. That causes offensive odor. It produces offensive odor that leads to ridicule by schoolmates, classmates, and teachers. They scold. Okay. The classmates who are sitting beside him, they scold him. Okay, teacher will scold him. Then punitive measure and scolding from parents and teachers. Okay. Child becomes ashamed and angry because of this. Poor school attendance and performance. Because he doesn't have any control over the student, he doesn't go to the school. From home, he comes to the school, but he doesn't go to the school. He sits somewhere outside the school. Problem gets well entrenched. Okay. Management of encopresis: clearance of impacted feces using enemas. Okay. Short-term use of mineral oil or laxative to prevent constipation. If constipation is the problem, okay, then what happens? In constipation, stool becomes hard. Only liquid watery stool comes out and it mixes with it. Comes out, and when the child is in the school, he pass that in the clothes itself. Okay. Behavior therapy: regular postprandial toilet sitting. So management, clearance of impacted feces using enema, short-term use of mineral oil or laxatives to prevent constipation, because constipation is one of the causes of this. Then behavior therapy, regular postprandial toilet sitting. Regular postprandial, after eating or after taking food, we have to take them to the toilet. And high fiber diet, improving water intake to prevent constipation. Then individual or group psychotherapy session. Okay. Family support, encourage the child, rewards for compliance, avoid power struggles. So if the parents follow this, soiling stops in few months. Soiling the clothes stops in few months, then no problem at the school. So child is normal. Okay. That is about encompasses. So these are the 8 behavioral problems we face in children. Okay.